Alright, so thankfully I ended up graduating school before like witches and all that stuff really got mainstream, but I guess apparently there's this new group of people roaming around schools threatening to put curses on anyone that challenges them. And someone sent me a story about how these group of witches and a warlock ended up trying to curse them, and it was just a whole lot of cringe, so I figured I'd share it with you, so let's go. Alright, so the subscriber that sent this in to me had just gone into class, and they were in the middle of this situation where like the teacher was moving people around just to break up groups and like introduce new kids to new kids, I guess, you know, make the school community better. And he ended up getting put at this table with 3 other people, and it was very awkward because the 3 of them were very good friends and he was like the only person that didn't know them, right? And so they're talking and they kind of realize that he's just sitting there awkwardly, so they go to introduce themselves, and they introduce themselves as the Coven 3, the best group of witches and warlocks in the area. And he thinks that they're kidding, right? You know, like he's waiting for them to laugh or something, but no, they are insisting that they are a group of witches and warlocks with a nickname. Similar to like what you do when you make a clan on Xbox when you're like 12, you know, your FaZe clan, but you're PHASE instead of, you know, the way they do it. Regardless, the person who sent this in to me doesn't really understand what they mean by, like, being a group of witches and warlocks because they're not familiar with people actually thinking they have magic powers. So he's like, oh, well, I don't really know what that means, so, cool, good for you guys. What does it mean to be a witch and a warlock, you know? And he wasn't even trying to be insulting. He just really had never met someone that actually thinks they're magic, right? So they instantly just recoil, so offended. You don't know what witches and warlocks are? What? What's wrong with you? Like, you've never heard of witches that do curses and warlocks that are in tune with the spirit of the moon and can use it to influence reality? And, like, you know, they're going off about how, you know, witches and warlocks have magic powers and they can control everything. Which, listen, I'm not here to say that there's nothing to, like, witch and warlock beliefs or whatever. I don't care whatever you do, whatever you had, whatever. I'm just saying, if y'all were actually magic, you think you'd pick some lottery numbers right or something by now. You know, you would use it to make yourself a little moolah. But whatever, they're kind of lecturing him about how they have magic powers, and so the connection the subscriber makes in his head is like Harry Potter. So he says, oh, like Harry Potter? Once again, not trying to be insulting, just saying the first thing that came to his mind, and you would think that'd be close enough, right? Like, oh, okay, yeah, similar. Nope, wrong. They got insulted. They, like, look at him offended. Well, now you're just trying to insult my intelligence. Do you think it's funny to make fun of the idea that we're witches and warlocks? And, you know, he doesn't really know what to say, so he's just kind of stammering, like, and they're like, because I'll have you know right now, Harry Potter has set witches and warlocks back centuries from where our acceptance could be otherwise. Which, you know, I didn't realize was a problem, okay? I didn't realize the witches and warlocks out there really hated Harry Potter. So the subscriber is trying to take this seriously, so he's like, no, of course I'm not trying to insult you, you know, I just know that in Harry Potter, the teachers that are women are like witches, and I know Harry Potter's a wizard, but a warlock and a wizard are the same thing, right? You know, like pretty close. I wasn't trying to insult anyone, it was just something that I thought of that was similar. And they're rolling their eyes as he's saying this, right? Like they can't believe the stupidity coming out of his mouth. How dare he not understand how offensive that is? And so they're like, well, that is fiction. Our group actually has magic powers, unlike Harry Potter. You think an owl brings you a letter in your magic? No. Me and my group have tapped into the Earth's ancient powers and their magic fields in order to gain access to the ability to bend reality at our whim. And they're saying this completely normal, dude. They're not like pretending that they're in an anime or whatever. They're saying this like they're actually supposed to have magic powers. So the subscriber is like, you're telling me that you guys are actually magic. You know, you're not kidding. Like you're actually telling me that you guys have the ability to like zippity zoom and lightning will come out of your fingers. You know, you have the force, not because you're a Jedi, but because you're magic. Like that's actually what you're gonna tell me, because he just can't believe somebody would be sitting here trying to say that, right? Because listen, if you're into like witchcraft or whatever as a hobby, that's fine. You don't actually have the ability to cast stupefy on somebody. But the group of the Coven 3 is like, like, yes, we've done so many rituals that we're deeply in tune with the magic in the area. So, before you decide to compare us to anything of fiction, know that we've actually done the rituals and we know that we have the power. And he's kind of sitting there, like, not knowing what to think about this. Obviously, the Coven 3 is trying to look extremely intimidating, but, he's kind of like, you guys seem more nuts than anything. So his only response to that entire rant is just, yeah, okay. And they're like, do you have any questions? It sounds like you maybe are skeptical on the idea that we actually have magic powers, which, hey, why would anyone be skeptical about that? Anyways, obviously the subscriber has one question, which is like, okay, if you guys are magic and, me assuming you're like Harry Potter is offensive, then can you prove to me you're magic by like doing something, like making a lantern in your hands or casting a spell? Like, can you give me something to prove that you're magic? Which is totally a fair question. If somebody's roaming around claiming to fly, you're like, all right, hover for a second. I don't feel like that's out of bounds. You're just trying to make sure that they actually got the flying power. And obviously the witches and warlocks get offended at that as well. I can't do that. That's not how our magic works. Are you kidding me? Do you feel like magic that's linked to ancient earthen powers is just something I can use willy-nilly to impress somebody in class? Like, that's no respect for the power. If you don't respect the power, it won't be there. Convenient, you just have to use magic for serious things. You can never use it to just prove it to somebody. That would be ridiculous. So the subscriber is like, well, why not? Like, why can't you just do it? I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way to the power. I'm just saying, if you really have done like all these crazy rituals in your magic, then do some magic, like, fine. Just pick a card that I've picked in my head, like do a street magic trick, whatever, but just do a little bit of magic just so I can know you're not like yanking my chain here. Which once again, I feel like is fair. If somebody's claiming they're a wizard, you gotta produce some magic. It just is what it is. And obviously the warlock at that point jumps in and is like, you're a disbeliever, aren't you? You have no belief in the ancient earthen magic. You reek of misunderstanding. I can sense it. My magic is being dampened just being around you. The fact that you misunderstand magic shows why we can never show you the true scale of our power. Just the most convenient cop-out of all time. Like, yeah, I would totally show you my magic, but you just wouldn't understand it. And the subscriber's like, I'm just saying that if you have magic powers that you need to do a bunch of rituals for, but it's also magic powers that you can never use for anything fun or show to anyone, it seems kind of pointless. Which is true, man. Call me a non-believer, call me crappy, but like if I have to do all this crazy stuff to get the magic powers, but the rule is I can just never use the magic powers, then it's like, well, this was not really worth it at all. Is it a situation like when you sign up for a timeshare, anyone who signed up for a timeshare can't admit that a timeshare sucks because they've paid for a timeshare. But we all know for a fact that a timeshare sucks. Everybody that doesn't have a timeshare doesn't like timeshares, Regardless, they get all mad at him and they're like, we're going to curse you for daring to challenge us in the validity of our magic, you're going to pay for that. This curse is going to ruin your life. And the subscriber that sent this to me literally can't believe that they're threatening to curse him now. So he does the only logical thing he can do and just goes, ooh, shiver me timbers, which is like the only reaction you can have to somebody saying they're gonna curse you. Anyways, at that point the teacher comes over because it was getting pretty loud and disrupting the class, and she's like, I did not move you guys over here to fight, so you guys need to get it together and figure out how to work as a team, otherwise you're all going to the principal's office, and I don't have the patience for this right now, so if you want to spend the rest of your day in the office, then keep it up, but if not, I would just get along. So they all just go silent for the rest of class. But the witch and warlock, the Coven 3 just can't help but keep threatening him, and like by writing him threatening notes, and I'm doing air quotes around threatening because they weren't necessarily threatening as much as they were like kind of cringe fan fiction, They're writing him notes and passing it to him. He's like not even wanting to open it because it's obviously just some weird note, and so whatever. Finally, after passing him a bunch of notes, he opens it. And it's written in like this really cursive font, almost like it probably took them 25 minutes to get the calligraphy down. We're going to curse you tonight. Sleep with one eye open, and it's like just, okay, man, like you're gonna curse me, whatever. I mean, I'm sure for some people that's absolutely horrifying, but if these are the same people that like are late to first period every day because they need to go get Starbucks saying they're gonna curse you, it loses a lot of its luster as a threat. So whatever, he ended up writing back back a note that said something along the lines of like, I'm not really afraid of your curse because I feel like there's more magic in the fairy godmother from Shrek. And she was really out there doing some crazy magic, all things considered. You know, I don't know if y'all remember that movie, the I Needed a Hero sequence, that entire debacle is what I was going for there. I don't know what word shabackle would be. Regardless, you know, that entire debacle, she was making people disappear, putting people in bubbles. That was crazy. So whatever, he passed the note back. You would think they'd take it as a compliment to be as powerful as the fairy godmother. But they start losing it. The witch that hadn't said anything to that point starts screaming, "Oh my gosh, the fairy godmother is not a witch. It's not the same thing." Just insanely offended, which to me is hilarious, dude, because it's like, listen, if Harry Potter isn't, you know, fair enough, the fairy godmother's not fair enough, what witch or wizard, like what magic representation can you compare yourself to then? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. And on top of it, if you're going to be losing it over anything, it's just weird to be losing it over the fairy godmother from Shrek. Like, to just be disrupting the class, losing your mind over a non-fiction, or I guess absolutely fiction, hopefully not non-fiction character, especially to the point where the teacher's already said that if you keep doing that, they're going to send you to the principal's office. So of course the teacher comes over, sends the person that just screamed to the principal's office, and so the witch is leaving and she's like, "Look what you did," you know, as if it's the subscriber's fault that she decided to start screaming about Shrek. So after she leaves, the rest of the Coven 3, you know, the Coven 2 now is like, "Oh, we're really gonna curse you now. You got our friend in trouble, so we're gonna extra curse you. Like, we're gonna go above and beyond to make sure this is the worst curse that you've ever had on you." Keep in mind, they had already been threatening to curse him, right? Which, you know, in my mind means that, like, the curse before was the light mode. I know they don't really do light mode apps anymore, but, like, it was that the light version of the curse. "Oh, before, we were gonna take the curse light on you, you know, we were gonna make you poop your pants once. Now we're burning your house down." Like, oh, okay, before it wasn't gonna be an extreme curse. I'm just saying, is there different levels of curses? I feel like a curse just sucks no matter what. I mean, obviously a curse that, like, kills you would be the worst curse, but I'm just not really trying to figure out different severities or figure out how to cast different severities. Just seems like a lot more work than it's worth, really. Anyways, he's kind of okay with being cursed. He's not too afraid of it. Class ends and he ends up going about his day. You know, the rest of school's pretty uneventful. No other witches or warlocks come up and threaten him. He gets a little bit more homework than usual, which kind of sucks, but whatever. He just goes home, does his homework. It's a completely uneventful day. This is gonna matter later. I know right now you're like, why are you telling me about his uneventful day? But like I said, after school, going home, nothing crazy happens. There's no meteors coming through the walls, you know, there's no dreams of him dying. Like, there's nothing crazy, spooky, scary you would expect from a curse. There's not like him walking through a field and a zombie hand reaches up and grabs him and going, "Brains, brains." Like, there's literally nothing that you could constitute as a curse in any way. He doesn't even have, like, any run-of-the-mill bad luck, like biting his tongue at dinner or accidentally swallowing his gum. Like, it's just literally completely uneventful. Anyways, he's on his way into class the next day, feeling completely fine because the day was uneventful, and so he's walking in, and the Coven 3, all the witches are standing there, just like arms folded, dirty looks, making him, you know, feel a little uncomfy. And as he's like going in, he just goes to walk by him and they block his way and he goes, "Excuse me," and they just don't move. And they're like, "So, guess who decided to show up today?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course I showed up today." And they're like, "Oh, we're just surprised you showed up today because we're gonna assume last night was pretty rough, wasn't it, huh? You tell us how last night was." And obviously their arms are folded. They're like asking him about how rough last night was, as if, you know, they know for a fact he had a horrible night. And he's not sure if they like thought they jumped him but got the wrong guy or what, you know, or what they're really referring to. So in his confusion, he literally just like outlines kind of just the truth. "What are you guys talking about? You know, last night was fine. I mean, I had a little bit more homework than normal, but nothing crazy happened. Like, it was a pretty normal night, you know." And he doesn't really know these people. He doesn't owe them an explanation, but he's not even sure why they're asking about his night. So he just answers it normally, that like nothing crazy had gone down. And as he's explaining that nothing really gone down, there's no fear in his voice or anything, and the warlock and one of the witches kind of has like their face change and is a little bit surprised. But the one witch who's like in control of the Coven 3, the leader, is like, "Yeah, sure, there's no way last night was uneventful. We used a pretty powerful spell on you to make sure that you had yourself the worst night ever. Trust me, it was one of the most powerful ones that we've ever cast. There's no way that last night was uneventful. I guarantee you were having night terrors like crazy. I bet you there was tons of bad luck, wasn't there? And he's standing there confused because there just really wasn't a whole lot of bad luck. So he's like, I guess if that was your most powerful spell, you need to work on it, because my night was completely normal and fine. It was completely uneventful. And she had said like the spell was so powerful with so much confidence that, her deflation when he was like, yeah, no, nothing happened, just was hilarious to see. Because you got to imagine, at that point she's like, no way, we used a powerful spell on you, hoping that his like cool facade is gonna crumble and he'll be like, please lift the curse, it's so scary, I can't handle it any longer. And he's like, yeah, no, it just wasn't that scary. So she doubles down on trying to like break him, even though there's nothing to break. And she starts saying that the Coven 3 had gone out into the woods for 4 hours the night before and done a powerful ritual with chanting and stuff to like put a curse on him, which is nuts to me, dude. 4 hours out in the woods to curse somebody that just like, questioned if you have magic powers is nuts, especially when it didn't work. So the subscriber like points that out to him, he says, wow, I'm flattered, but all that means is that you spent 4 hours dancing around the woods for nothing to happen. Like, that just seems like kind of a giant waste of your time. And he starts laughing because it's just so unthreatening at that point. Like, imagine finding out that somebody's like, oh, guess what? We followed your car for 4 hours last night. And you're like, I didn't drive for 4 hours, man. They just followed the wrong car. Like, yeah, it's creepy they were trying to follow you, It sucks they were trying to curse him, but at the same time, they were the idiots roaming around the woods just chanting stuff for 4 hours and got nothing out of it. And so when he starts laughing, they get angry and they're like, we know your parents fought last night and that you had night terrors. We know that was the curse that we put on you. And, his parents hadn't fought the night before. He hadn't had any night terrors. But once again, she had just said it with so much confidence that it just made him laugh more than anything. And at that point, he starts to feel bad for him. Like, all the fight he had in him to argue with him and make him feel stupid starts to leave, because he's like, oh, you poor guys just stood in the woods for 4 hours for no reason. So he's like, hey, I don't want to fight with you guys, but literally none of that happened, all right? My parents didn't fight. I didn't have any bad dreams, so I don't know, man. Maybe, like, the moon wasn't powerful enough, your ancient earth powers need a reboot or whatever, but all I'm saying is that your magic didn't work. And he wasn't trying to be condescending, he just didn't know how to talk to people casting spells, but I guess that was very rude, because the lead witch of the Coven 3 slaps him at that point. I guess to really own him, if the curse wasn't gonna inflict any damage, your palm might as well. So she just gets a good, nice slap. And they're in the hallway before class at that point. They wouldn't let him in. So everybody that's out in the hallway sees the slap. And as you do in a situation like that, when you watch somebody just get slapped a little bit, you just go like, oh. Well, the O happens. The teacher had seen the slap. When kids react, now they gotta deal with it. So the teacher comes over and is like, okay, what happened? Why are you slapping him? Like, what's the situation? Why do I have to deal with this again? I dealt with this yesterday. Teacher's rightfully annoyed, because I'm sure they thought that, like, moving the tables around, shifting people around was gonna make things easier, maybe cut down on the drama. Now they're out here with Scooby-Doo and, like, the Coven 3 cursing people and whatnot. And the lead witch that had slapped him is like, he's making fun of our witchcraft and saying that our spells are fake because they didn't work on him. But just because they didn't work on him doesn't mean that they're fake. Which, I don't follow the logic there. I feel like if you spend 4 hours swearing that you casted a spell and that spell doesn't work, then, like, there's no way the smaller spells work. If 4 hours of dedication can't get your magic to work, like, you expect me to be afraid of you casting magic on the fly with no preparation in, like, 2 minutes? No, because that's a 95% chance that's not working, But whatever, the teacher doesn't really have the patience for any witchcraft or wizardry whatsoever, and they're just like, well, you aren't magic, and you can't slap people even if you are magic because they don't believe it, so you need to go to the deans now. And so the witch ends up, like, reluctantly walking to the deans, probably kind of scared the entire time because, she realized that the magic wasn't going to do much against the teachers. Sure, the magic that you were chanting in the woods for 4 hours last night was supposed to give him bad dreams, but I don't really think it's gonna protect you from getting suspended from slapping somebody in front of a teacher. That's just one of those things that I think you might need an invisibility cloak to get out of. Too bad you thought Harry Potter was stupid. You maybe should have been trying to copy some of his spells instead, I think that's even more proof that the whole we're witches and warlocks thing doesn't make sense and definitely wasn't true, because, like, if there's ever a chance to use your magic, it's right now when you're in trouble or your friend's in trouble. Like, why isn't the warlock out in the bathroom casting spells to get his homie out of trouble? That's what you should be doing. I'm just saying. saying, if you do have magic powers, you should 100% be using it to make sure you guys don't get in trouble. There's no reason to not use the magic at this point. We can never show people our powers. Well, then the powers are pointless. You know, if I'm Spider-Man, but I can never use it to save anyone, I just have to keep it a secret. That sucks. Plus, on top of that, even if they were going to use the magic to get out of trouble, I guess it's hard to, like, get out of school and run around the woods chanting for 4 hours in the middle of third period. You know, maybe that's fair. Could you imagine, like, accidentally stumbling upon that? That had to have been something straight out of a horror movie. You're just walking through the woods at night with your dog or something. There's just a bunch of people running around chanting magic spells. I don't care if it's fake. That would be absolutely horrifying. You know, I don't know what cult I just accidentally stumbled upon in the woods, but I'm not trying to stick around and find out. No, thank you. Anyways, after the lead witch ended up getting suspended at the dean's office, the other witch and warlock ended up apologizing, saying that they were pacifist witches that didn't believe in violence, which, you know, kudos to them. The only problem I have with them trying to do the whole pacifist witch, we weren't trying to curse you thing, is apparently the curse they put on him was that, like, his parents were going to fight and he was going to have night terrors. I would almost rather you just punch me in the face, you know, like, rather than start cursing my family and giving me nightmares, how about you just fight me instead? I don't really know if I believe the whole pacifist angle if that's what you were doing beforehand, but maybe that's just me. Anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I would really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought, and of course subscribe if you're new. Turn on notifications. If you really want to help me out, then you can use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout. Great way to get a discount on G Fuel. You can also check out the link to my Spotify down below to listen to some of these story times offline, and I would really appreciate it. Or on top of it, in the description is also a link to the merch store. Feel free to go cop yourself some. If you caught the gift code card, good for you. Enjoy it. And yeah, on that note, that'll do it. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot, and hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.